Hello and welcome back to AEF TV in association with Engerati. I'm joined now in the studio by Ralph, who's the CEO and founder of COPI Development. And Ralph, we were talking a little bit off air about the dynamic of what's happening in Africa and the sort of investment in Africa. And you mentioned that there's you have a slight sense of disappointment in the sense that, and I don't want to be overly negative about it, but in the sense that the number of sort of African representation within that sort of dialogue, and you feel that there needs to be a bit more aggression in terms of being proactive. I suppose aggression is maybe the wrong word, but being proactive in terms of really getting out there and seeking it out. Just sort of expand on that a little bit.
No, I think you are quite right. In events like this, you need to see more Africans, more business people from Africa, more government people from Africa, in order to work to attract more investors. Because their involvement, I think, will be a sign that things are happening there. And if they don't do that, they should be doing also part of their job. It's not only Energy Network has to carry that. We need to have businesses from Africa, government from Africa being actively part in attracting. That should be a very proactive effort, attracting investment, because there are opportunities there. But if that work is not done, opportunity does develop a country. So you need to build on opportunity in order to have a good project and then develop your country, create jobs and so on. If that effort is not,
so I get a sense of frustration from you that so I've had a number of people sat in the chair where you are saying that, oh yeah, but we've got this fund being launched and we've got that fund and we've got that and so on. So there are people who are saying the capital is there if the project is right. Are you saying that more proactive work needs to be done at a government and ministerial level to get every country's house in order? You can't paint a broad brush.
There's still a lot of work to be done. Just consider the access rates for power or for electricity in our cities or in our rural areas is still too low. That means there's still a lot of work still need to be done. And that's why we as COPI Development, we want to take our part in that role as well. We have been up till now the local partner of Globelec and Actis in Cameroon and in Congo. We are very proud of that, but now we are moving towards another direction. We are about to open the next geothermal province in Africa by promoting geothermal project along the Cameroon volcanic line. Actually, we have 4 projects, 1 in Chad and 3 in Cameroon, and we are investigating another geothermal project in Equatorial Guinea. But we are also involved in trying to address some other issues in the energy sector in Cameroon or in all over Africa, like for example fuel subsidies. And we think that maybe by using gas, producing compressed natural gas, it can be a solution, not the solution, but at least a start in curbing down the fuel subsidies in the region. And we want to take our full part in the development of Africa, the development of our area.
Because it's interesting you say that, because there was an article in, I think it's this week's Economist, where they're talking about the subsidy issue, and they weren't talking about Africa. They were talking macro, global. It's not just Africa who's got that. Indonesia, Philippines. You can name any number of countries. And their argument was very simple: is that you need to create a truer reflection of the price of energy into the supply chain. And you would stand by that argument, would you?
There are 2 issues. One issue is that you need to have cost-reflective tariff, but on the other side also you need to consider the reality on the ground. we have lack of infrastructure, and we have also people in our countries who don't have the means don't have access to proper transport and so on. So you need to go and craft a policy that can address both of the issues. So that's my point.
So just to explore that a little bit, and I'm going to talk hypothetically here, and I've seen this regionality and everything as well. It's just like, so the thing around cost reflective tariffs is okay. That is okay if the consumer can pay the cost reflective tariffs, because there is polarity, and again, this is not an African issue. Every country has this, right? So you've got people, either commercial businesses who can afford cost reflective tariffs, but you then have a section down the pyramid, a section of society that can't afford the cost effective tariffs. So how do you, those are two somewhat contradictory things. What sort of framework could safeguard the bottom of the pyramid, because we've got to be careful about that.
That's where I think proper policy makes the difference, right? If you craft down a proper policy, you can address those issues quite right. So some of our countries, if you take an issue like fuel subsidy, for example, they are subsidizing everybody.
Yes.
So, and there are people who don't need fuel subsidies, but they are currently being subsidized. So it's mainly because the actual policy is completely inefficient. So we need to review all these mechanisms and try craft down something that can work for the government but also for people down the pyramid. It's still possible.
And I suppose it becomes more possible because you then also need the right framework in order to manage and measure that, and decide who's going. So
and on that specific point, I think we need also to evaluate and then to see exactly what opportunity can bring new technology. For example, smart grid and possibility to do demand management and so on. Maybe there could also be a solution could lie also on the technology. So we need to explore all these things and specifically try to have the correct policy,
the correct framework, in place. And you kind of mentioned that this isn't just a Cameroon issue. It's it's also in other places. But one of the things that I wanted to just focus on, and I realize we're jumping around a little bit. You mentioned the geothermal projects that that you guys are working on. Quite interesting in that is you're the first person who mentioned. Well, there's been cursory mention of geothermal. Everybody's going wind, solar, and hydro. That's the renewables. Why is it that the geothermal sort of conversation isn't bubbling up to the top as much? Is it?
It's not bubbling up to the top because it's still very risky business, right? And then, but I'm quite confident on the fact that it's changing because government are enacting the fact that due to climate change, we need to have a more broadened energy mix. And geothermal can be extremely useful. Imagine what can happen if you have drought for 2-3 successive years. And geothermal can be a solution, not the solution, but can be part of the solution in order to complement the energy mix in the country. And actually, the World Bank and the African Union, organizations like that, they are putting in place a geothermal risk mitigation facility that can allow investors or developers like us to jump in the geothermal business and make sure that we can have a project running.
Could you just explain a little bit about the geothermal specific risks? I mean, removing aside the financing and all that, because those are risks which every project carries. But what are some of the very specific things on
the specific thing about geothermal is mainly the fact that you have to drill, and when you drill, you don't know what you're going to find. And drilling costs you a lot of money. So all this process that move from geological studies, subsurface studies, and then appraisal wells drilling cost a lot of money, you see? And that's where the risk lies, because you can spend 15 million US dollar and you have nothing.
Right, right.
But
it sounds like a bit like the early days of oil exploration, right?
yeah. But that's where also you need to have around you experienced people, experienced management team, and we at COPI Development, we have a very experienced team. We have people that came from the oil and gas industry. They used to run geothermal project in Europe, but we also team up with Geothermex, who's part of Schlumberger Group. A lot of experience in terms of geothermal development, geothermal appraisal wells, and so on. And we hope, and we are quite sure that we are going to be successful.
Excellent. And we're coming to the end of our time here. And just one final question before, and thankfully the air conditioning seems to have come back on, so it's a bit more pleasant.
Yeah.
But going back to right to the beginning, your frustration in terms of the perceived level of engagement. So, right, we have ministers here, but perhaps not enough, and so on. I'm sure that's. I can't imagine a minister of energy in any country sitting there and going, "I'm not going to do anything about it because that's their job, or it's supposed to be their job." So. Why do you think that this and I'm now sharing your frustration, this isn't happening, this collaboration isn't happening? Is it because and countries are still thinking too isolated rather than saying, okay, if we approach all of this together, we can actually get more out of this?
I think sometimes it's because there's lack of information, first thing. Second thing also is that most of us from Francophone speaking countries, we are very shy in coming in meetings like this where the main language is English. But I think it's going to change because more and more people are understanding that in today's economy, you have to speak English. The language of money is English. The language of economy today is English. And
or
even
American.
Or American, if you want. But if you want to be a successful business,
yes,
you need to have smart people around you. You need to have smart investors, smart employees. You need to come to meetings like this in order to meet all those people, and for these people to meet you also.
Yeah. But in a way, isn't the fact of the existence of your company is somewhat of a testament that people on the ground are sort of taking this in their own hands.
Yes.
You're almost like going, we're just going to do this.
We want to do our part, and then by so doing, we think that we can emulate other entrepreneurs. And we hope that the next edition, maybe they are going to, we hope and we are going to work so that in next edition we have more people, at least from South Africa coming, more ministers, more business people from the region coming as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and I echo that, and I look forward to that happening. And thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
It was a great pleasure. Thank you very much.
And thank you as well for watching. It's another interview at Africa Energy Forum, AEF TV in association with Engerati. There are many more interviews on the website, so please do go ahead and enjoy those. And we look forward to seeing you soon.